Hello, whoa. What's with that look long?
I don't know. Like, you say hello world. I don't know how to respond to that.
That's the standard thing. Example 101, right? Like, learning to use this language. Print hello world.
Yes. Lets you know what string is in that programming language.
Yeah, and technically these are like our official first episode. Right? Episode 0 is just us being a fool. So yes, I guess I want to thank everyone who kind of listened on to episode 0. I think it's mostly everybody we know, but thanks to everyone.
I think it's a bit more than that, right? Like, we have 30, 40 views.
It could be just me spamming, just to make sure the audio was correct.
Every single?
No, not all 40, of course. But yeah, I guess we can start with introductions, mostly to our broader audiences who doesn't know us. So Long, maybe you want to go first.
I'm not prepared for this. Can someone else go first?
Nobody is prepared for this, man. Everyone's not prepared for this.
Okay. Let's say you were to give a talk. How would you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Usually the funny thing that about me that immediately noticeable is my name. So I would say, hi everyone, my name is Long, but my name is not that long.
So what is your name? Not that long or long?
Exactly. Really, I don't know how to do this. I have never given a public talk.
What? Really?
Can someone else go first so that we can cut this one out?
No, we're not cutting this out. This is like a good bloopers or something.
No. What do we talk about? Like what your audience would most likely want to know about you when you give public talk? I mean,
like where you work, I guess.
I get that's kind of I guess. So like some hot take about when I see talks, right? I don't appreciate people who go on too long just introducing themselves. Like, oh, I know what you're doing, where you're at. That's kind of enough information. I kind of feel a bit weird if they start talking about their achievements and then going on to their talk.
Like a vocal resume kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a bit too much already. I'm here for the talk, not about you. I mean, the talk is given by you, but you know.
like what Afi said, like established credentials.
Yeah. Or maybe he's just selling himself because he's looking for a new job,
I mean, then put it more obvious. Like I'm looking for a new. Like it doesn't have to be. Personally, I will feel a bit weird. Like I'm here to listen to the talk, but if you're looking, I know some presenters were like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job," but they don't give a spiel on "Oh, I work in this team. I've done X and Y and Z," and yeah. I guess it's more my personal opinion than anything.
So like example. So I'm about to introduce myself in a public talk.
Long. What are you passionate about? Oh, that's like an interview question now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Let's make it more casual, man. It's like
Yeah.
Okay. So if audience want to know about your job,
Let's do this. Like Afi, what would be a bad thing you would like to say about Long?
Just one.
Oh.
I have a lot of bad things
Too
about
long.
Long.
no.
No, I'm just kidding. No lah, make it casual lah. It's like
Okay, let me try.
okay, yeah.
So my name is Long, and I'm a software developer, or more specifically web developers, and I work mostly on Node.js and front end, and I also like to touch everything about UX a bit. Yeah, that's all. Right? That's kind of the introduction you want in a talk.
Yeah.
Is that what you expected?
Short and concise.
Yeah, like what you feel comfortable giving. I think that's kind of accurately reflecting what you're passionate about. Long is very passionate about user experience. He's very passionate about linting as well. He manually lints code.
Yes. Code cleanliness.
Oh no. Yeah, I can vouch for that.
Maybe you should put it as a LinkedIn skill or something. No, code linter.
Human code.
That will prevent people from hiring me.
No, they'll get linter company will want to get you.
It's like between clean code that doesn't work and dirty code that works. You want dirty code that works.
No, you want clean code that works.
I mean, if you have only choose to. So, how would you guys introduce yourself then?
Afif, you want to go next?
My name is Afif. Do I tell what I'm passionate about? I'm passionate about front end as well. Specifically, Vue. I really like Vue, and if you use React, I will nag at you to use Vue. Half jokingly.
Passive aggressively.
Yes, passive aggressively, sarcastically, or like, you know. No lah, I'm just kidding. I'm using React also, but yeah, I really like Vue. I prefer Vue. Okay, that's it.
You left out the most important thing, most important quality you have.
Oh no!
PUN, pun.
Oh,
Yeah.
I make puns, yes. Yeah, do follow my Twitter for like my daily puns or something. Actually, I don't tweet daily also. Yeah, but sometimes I occasionally tweet puns.
Yeah, he's even endorsed on LinkedIn as well.
Really? Somebody endorsed me on LinkedIn?
You forgot you.
Oh, yeah, I listed that as my skill. Half jokingly, and somebody actually...
A lot of
Yeah,
people
thank
endorse you for it.
I didn't check, seriously. Okay, yeah, that's like, I guess two things about me then.
Okay, so that's Long, Afif. Right, so I'm Gui. I'm mostly doing backend work right now, writing Ruby, which I kind of enjoy. So I guess that's about me. I kind of this is my introduction at Talks, right? No, previously what introduction I give at Talks would be. Usually I'll give a Ruby talk, by the way. It's like, hey, I'm Gui. I'm an after 6 p.m. Ruby programmer, but now I'm like writing Ruby for my actual job, inverted commas, right now. So yeah, that's kind of introduction about me.
But what about all those like you going to Agile meetups and all those? You don't want to put those in your introduction?
And I will kind of like put a one-liner saying that I'm interested, passionate about lean thinking and processes. So I guess I kind of still am, which I guess we'll talk a lot more about later. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm passionate about like lean thinking and agile and processes as well. Okay, awkward introductions out of the way.
Is it just me that we're all bad like at self-introductions? Is it a skill that we should learn? Something?
I guess it's just like we're trying to imagine like meeting people for the first time. I guess if you're giving a talk, it would be more natural because we're kind of prepared for it and we can see the audience, right? And this is like an imaginative person that we haven't met. It's like,
We're looking at each other like we already know each other. That doing self-introduction to people you already know feels like weird.
Yeah, feels slightly awkward. But yeah. So this is for like the broader audience who don't know us to know us better. Okay, so I guess we can dive right in. So this episode we're kind of talking about. We're gonna talk about like starting in a new company, right? Because I just recently switched jobs, so we can talk about like I guess we're gonna talk about like starting in a new company, like what kind of expect, what someone as a new joiner will kind of expect, how like existing engineers might want to help them grow, and kind of maybe talk about like company structures and that sort of thing as well. So let's see, how do we kickstart this off? So
what's the difference between writing a Hello World program versus Hello World to a company?
I guess it depends on company onboarding. Like I guess most companies would have some sort of internal system they use for communication, right? Like for example, some companies use Workplace, Facebook for work. Like a lot of companies out there use Slack, so maybe Hello World or that will be, hey everybody, I'm a new joiner in one of those systems. Going through like an onboarding process very recently, again it's like we as developers need access to a lot of systems, right? Regardless whether you're a front end and back end engineer or even a mobile engineer, you need like first thing is like Git repositories and ticketing systems and CI, CD, and that can kind of quickly be a bit disorienting especially on the first day. But I guess for experienced developer, it's kind of like, right, I kind of know that I need to get access to all the systems. But for a fresh grad, that might be a bit confusing because they don't know what CI/CD as well. I don't think universities teach CI/CD or even version control to begin with. I don't know. Like we are not that young. Putting it frankly, we are not that young. So
Yeah, we don't know what universities do nowadays, right?
Yeah, but I do like sometimes we have all these assumptions. Someone we hired would know about all these basic programming things that you should know. But like very recently, I'm onboarding someone who like new like he didn't have any experience writing any software at all. Didn't graduate from a computer science background or something. So it's you have to do things like help guiding him through setting up access to Git, like upload your public key to Git so that you can Git clone via SSH instead of HTTPS, which is kind of slow. So like I found out that our existing onboarding process didn't cover all these grounds for like this really like completely fresh, like almost intern levels kind of new joiners. So yeah, if it's disorienting for new like experienced programmers, I can't imagine what it's like for like someone who's completely new into the field, into the industry.
I guess that it's kind of a one-off situation, kind of, because like normally you would have a good enough interview process to actually filter that out, right? I mean, like if you're interviewing, then you're not gonna take somebody who's not familiar with Git, I guess.
I guess it depends on the interview process as well, right? If the interview process doesn't test for Git, doesn't test for CI/CD knowledge, it's kind of like, I mean, if it doesn't test for it, then naturally it's not testing for it, right? At the same time, kind of like flowing into interview a bit, like how high of a level we want to, because I think as we mentioned earlier, like, we don't even know like university teach Git and what CI/CD, so it's kind of a gatekeep if we test for that. I mean, it comes back to the interview itself, right? If they're saying, hey, there's this question about using version control, but we give you a week, I think that's okay. Unless you're expecting like within a day, use something about version control, it's totally different.
Right. Long also mentioned that if you're intern, then maybe you also have not reached to the point where you actually are familiar with version control as well. So I guess that's a process that needs to be improved lah, I guess. I think we always assume sometimes these guides are made by senior engineers who's probably not very how do I say,
Have a blind spot for this kind of thing, I guess.
right, yeah, that's like overlooked these kind of things to, yeah.
For me, it comes back to company culture as well, whether they kind of like put importance towards this onboarding, because it could be very easy as like, okay, we'll just write some guide and then we just let the new joiners just figure through it. So when I say it depends on company culture, like I know, like for example, some companies we put a strong emphasis on like, hey, new joiners go through this onboarding process. If there's anything outdated or wrong, just update it, right? And other companies are not very strong on that culture. They're like, oh, just follow this guy, and they don't really like explicitly say, hey, update this if it's out of date, or because some documentation that I've been going through are slightly out of date, and like I'm having to ask a lot of people for a lot of context on like, hey, what is this still valid? And, no, that's not valid. Okay, I'll update the docs and that sort of thing. But coming to what you mentioned earlier, Long, like because for me the question is like for fresh grads, we kind of don't know how deep we want to throw them in terms of like knowledge. Like, do they need to understand why do they need to upload their keys for Git and CI/CD, or it's something we can teach, we can help educate them much later.
And also, like, I think some of our onboarding expectation need to adjust depending on how experienced you are. Like, we have an expectation of day zero commit. Like, on the first day of your jobs, you have to commit something, push to the production or merge to master. And then for someone who didn't even know how Git works, that's a lot to ask on the first day, I guess, sometimes.
Right. I guess it comes down to like what was the rationale behind implementing a day zero commit or even a first week commit as well. I guess like for example the day zero commit, I do know that the principle behind it was that hey, we want to make sure our systems are not too bloated to such a point where someone new joins and it's hard for them to make a commit on their first day, right? But yeah, with these times, I know a lot of companies are a lot of companies are redoing their onboarding to better suit remote situations. I was kind of following how Shopify is like totally remodeling their onboarding for digital first, how they're thinking about, right, for like the data science team, what do they do, for the engineers, what do they do. I guess it's it's a challenge, especially now. It's a lot harder. Like if you need help, you have to. I guess we are shy when it comes to pinging people, right? You need help, it's like, oh, who do I reach out to? Especially in new joiner, it feels very overwhelming. Like, who do I reach out to? Like, I don't want to bother all these super senior engineers doing all their fantastic work. How?
I actually get that feedback from someone that I onboarded, that's especially true now that we are all working remotely. Like, if you want to ask one simple questions, you have to block someone's time, jump in the meetings, and then just ask simple question. Then you show something, you have to share the screen, and all that stuff. Oh, yeah, that's a lot.
There's definitely some frictions with remote working and onboarding, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't think this is a new problem, right? Like remote only companies have been around for a while, even before this pandemic. So I'm curious how they actually do it, especially the interaction part as well, right? Like I said, like new joiners feel a barrier there. Like even for me, joining a new organization, I feel a barrier because it's harder to reach out to people, right? On my first week, I actually went to office and I get to interact with people, and that's like very, very helpful. But now that with the circumstances surrounding the increase of cases, right, we're all working from home again. It's kind of like, okay, who do I reach out to? I guess coming from a perspective of a former manager, I think managers probably have even tougher time now. They kind of have to reach out to new joiners, like how you're doing. And I guess one barrier to that as well is fostering trust without face-to-face time, because it's a lot harder now that, again, it's the new joiner effect, right? New joiner, it's like, oh, manager is looking for me. Like if the manager asks, everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine.
Now I want to mention about the Valve handbook, like handbooks for newbies. So, Valve have a handbooks for new employees, like very nicely illustrated. I think
I wanted to say, is it like the Spotify model where everybody attributes it to Spotify, but Spotify doesn't actually use it anymore? So is it like the Valve handbook?
No. This is actually, it's not a model. It's not a framework. It's just that they have a really nice illustrated, printed handbook for their new employee, and it's like a manual you would get like from IKEA furnitures, how to do things. There will be illustrations, and I think some of the illustration will ask you to how to find out what's going on. Talk to people in meeting, talk to people in elevators, talk to people in kitchen, talk to people in bathroom, like the toilet.
That kind of comes back to the problem we just talked about, which is like
digital.
Those is fine, but all those physical content are no longer available anymore, right?
Yeah, now you have to explicitly talk to somebody like in a chat room, like a specific chat room, instead of like just meeting in the hallway or something, which is a lot harder lah. But I guess as a like pre-existing engineers in the new company should also be more active in this like remote working scenarios to actually keep on asking, hey, are you doing okay? Like, because if you just relying on the manager to actually do it, I think it's gonna be a friction for the new joiners as well. It's gonna affect their experience because they're not gonna know what to do and what to expect, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a bit, because I kind of feel that for like more experienced engineers in the organization, I guess the challenge would be kind of like, hey, when do I reach out to to this new joiner? Like, do you see a friction there, or like, hey, because I worry that, I guess the concern is that will it overload the new joiners? Like, oh, there's so many people, or do they feel like, oh, this senior is like taking care of me? I feel fine. Not sure.
Right. So I guess if we assign people to actually, your job is to actually care about this new joiner, then I guess it will be like the manager and one assignee. So I think that's better than just relying on the manager. But I don't think that should stop the others to actually, asking, like maybe before lunch, and then one more time before the end of the day. Then you just like, ask if you need help or something.
Right. I kind of been thinking about like interactions as a whole. I kind of feel like in this remote times, I say like it's something new, but I know like companies like GitLabs and all, they've already been practicing all this for a while already. But I think one thing that's kind of like, from experience, is like it's better to just schedule a time and like, okay, let's just meet during the time and we'll talk about anything, talk about whatever, like regardless whether it's new joiner or somebody like already in the company. Because sometimes chatting, like, how are you doing, is everything okay, usually the response would be like okay, or unless it's someone like kind of willing to share their, oh, I'm facing problems with this and that, and I was like, okay, let's jump into a call. But maybe just scheduling a call and just meeting up and like, okay, you have any problems, yes, blah blah, or no, then maybe the more senior engineer can probe a bit. It's like, oh, how about this, have you got access to this, do you know why we do this and that, might be more helpful. Yeah, because I feel like if just communicating over chat, sometimes it'd be like, as I said earlier, right, how you doing, it's like, could be just okay or not fine, or it will, I feel like it could be easily brushed away by, or everything is all right, because they don't know what to expect, especially a new joiner that doesn't have a lot of contact with the team. Feels like, oh, there are unknowns to them, because they don't really see physically how things are going on.
Yeah, I think like this also reminds me of something. That's the thing about doing all this digitally, remotely, is like, I remember when we were in a smaller team, where we were like less than 10 people. Let's say we have like 2 new joiners, 3 new joiners at the same time, like not completely new, but like maybe just fresh grad, or like you've been just joined for 1 or 2 months. There's still a lot of things. When someone very senior share about something really interesting, like very helpful for newcomers, with 1 new joiners, and the other new joiners, hey, come over, you can all listen to this, like, let's talk about this, it's good for you to know as well. Then you sort of like have the knowledge passed on simultaneously to multiple new joiners. But right now it's digital. It's like you don't really have that kind of organic knowledge transfer anymore. You deal with 1 new joiner, that's it, right? You're not gonna have random people joining the Zoom call to talk about stuff. I kind of miss that, actually. And I think that only works if you're a smaller team, I guess. Like it's different for a big team.
But definitely agree, the learning by osmosis thing, or even like discovering through osmosis, like if you're like physically, everybody is physically in the place and you can kind of overhear what the other teams are doing. It's like, hey, that problem is interesting, maybe I've had some input, or people can just come over like, hey, we have this challenge, how are you solving it? Now, like, I guess the communication model is like so hard right now, right? Because I need to ping these people, ping that people, and we kind of accept that chat is not instant, right? So it's like, okay, I'll ping, it's fine if they don't reply, but yeah, there's latency there. Not to say that we enjoy bothering people while we're physically there, right? It's like, hey, help me with this problem. But yeah, that definitely serves as a barrier.
And there's also frictions joining calls, like, hey, can you hear me? Oh, wait, let me set up my cameras. Oh no, I have some noise in the background, blah blah blah, some things.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
I was gonna say, I think that still happens if you like, just share the knowledge in the chat room instead of just like the personal chats. But sometimes it can be bloated as well, like, because unlike when you're hearing just from your physical place, you hear it and then it's gone, right? But then in the chat it will be there, and it will be harder to actually find information that you actually find relevant. Because if you're just hearing it, and then if you don't find it relevant, then you just put on your headphone or something and then just block that information out. But then in the chats, it's always there, so it is always going to be a distraction to whatever you find relevant. Something that's not relevant will always be a distraction in a chat room, in a big chat room at least. But yeah, I mean, the I guess the sharing of knowledge can still happen, but there are other challenges that arise from that.
Yeah, I kind of feel that this like knowledge sharing through chat, like indirect knowledge sharing through chat. I say indirect because a lot of times, like, probably engineers will be talking about, senior engineers will be talking about, hey, this thing we're facing, this problem, or let's work together on it, blah, blah, blah. So for the new joiner, they're kind of like, okay, I know this thing exists, and it's whether they want to take the initiative to ask, or whether the senior engineers take initiative to like explain to the new joiner, hey, this problem is about XYZ, context, blah, blah, blah. So I guess it's kind of two-way in that. For me, this also ties down to team structure as well, because the model that all three of us are kind of familiar is like teams are very centric around product, right? We build a web product, and all the engineers are capable of, like, from picking up a task, working through it, implementing both like front end, back end components, and delivering value directly to a customer, right? But now I'm working in a very different structure. So there's like front end team, back end teams, mobile teams, and QA teams. I don't think that information might jive as well. And especially if there's a model of like multiple back-end teams working on the same product, working on a single code base, I think it's harder to do knowledge sharing through chat. Or it doesn't occur as often, let me put it that way.
Right, because what your team finds relevant is not the same as what the other team finds relevant. So if you just blast the same information there, it might actually be perceived differently between teams.
And I think it's not just like among like engineering teams, like back end, front end. Like a lot of people, like we all know the cross-functional squads model, right? In the chat, we will have a chat room with product managers, support, designers, all that in, and then you will hear this engineer talking about all these code issues. I don't know, not enough. The API is behaving weirdly or something, and then that's a noise. I feel like to anyone that's not an engineer at all, right? But you still have to stay in the chat room. You still have to scroll through the chats, look at everything, read everything.
Yeah, I guess to give more context, like cross-functional squads are kind of like squads that can do A to Z and ship something directly out to the user or for the product without having to rely on other teams. So it's one team can take a requirement all the way to shipping it out in production. So kind of like that's where we are. But yeah, so coming back to like onboarding, like obviously we have all these challenges. I think all these challenges are not new and it's not isolated, right? It's really just us learning about how to like navigate through this, and especially for us that are not quite, at least for me, I'm still not quite used to working in this model, right? Especially onboarding recently, like I'm still not used to like all these remote things. Yeah, I don't.
And do you have like camera shy people in your team that's like it's very difficult to meet during this kind of remote onboarding? Because like in one of our recent farewell, online remote farewell tea party kind of things, I think people join in the farewells and found out that, hey, I haven't met these two other new joiners before. Like this is the first time we're meeting, seeing their faces and saying hello to each other during a farewell of another team member. So like, this is the thing that you get when you have someone on board fully remote, and you don't really get to meet each other, everyone that you actually work with. Yeah.
But that's just kind of like a signal that the system needs to accommodate for this, right?
I don't think we should be pushing people who are camera shy to be on the camera just because. I mean, I mean, it's part of making someone's uncomfortable, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we should push for people to be on camera. I think this is just one of the things the situation we are in, I guess, with all this fully remote. I'm not sure if there's a better process or issues to address this, but I feel like I think I read the article somewhere that's this is some of the downside of going remote. I mean, when we go full remote, there's always pros and cons. Like this is one of those cons you have to compromise, you have to live with, I guess.
Actually, I find that kind of surprising because okay, so there's two sides to this, right? When I say this is kind of surprising, there's two sides to this. One is like people not aware of new joiners. So it's like, okay, to me this is a kind of like a signal where is the system of communication that the organization is using is not accommodating for this. And I say surprising because I would naturally assume the arrival of a new joiner will be announced company-wide and that would be known. So that's one side of it, right? The other side of it would be engineers not caring about these announcements and just doing what they do day to day, right? It's like, oh, naturally all these news about new joiners somehow get either they don't care or it gets filtered out, and they're like, oh, I don't know there's new joiners because I didn't check on it, or like somehow they just miss out the feed, right? And it comes down to on the engineer side on like, okay, do I want to put effort into knowing all this news, or it's just like you say when everybody joins the call they only like, oh, we have new joiners, or now only I know. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a downside lah. It's more of like, is there a plan to work on this? Is this a problem? Or some companies don't see that as a problem. So however surprising that might be, some companies might not see that as a problem.
I guess that's the first step, recognizing that it's a problem, or wanting to recognize it as a problem.
Yeah, and it comes to again both sides, right? Like hey, engineers not knowing, are they like simply ignoring the news, or really they're not getting the news that there are new joiners coming in? I mean, people within the team would know lah, because obviously there's a new face now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean that people that you work with from day to day, every day. Of course, they are the people you know, like people that you work together maybe once per month. Those kind of interactions, relationships. So that's make it difficult for people to know each other. And also like self introductions, pause, like they are one-way communications versus like face-to-face conversation, like instant two-way communication. We introduce each other, who's who.
I think one of the most effective introductions for new members is having lunch together, and that's not happening in this COVID era. So yeah, I mean, we actually make workplace posts where you can actually comment and have two-way communications. But normally people would just say, hey, welcome, and then put some funny gif or something. But then it doesn't, like, the interactions that you get from lunch sessions are not there. So yeah, I mean, at least, like for example, like me, at least I know that, oh, these people exist. Like these people have joined us in the last 2 or 3 months. But yeah, I know zero things about them. So it would be different if we had.
Yeah, definitely having a meal would help a lot. Like so there was like an event for a dinner, and definitely like get to know some of my colleagues better through that event, and like getting exposed to like, oh, there's a design team, oh, you are a designer, oh, okay. Right? It's like finding more about the company structure through that. Yeah, which is like you say, like lunch is a very casual thing. It's like, okay, let's talk, and it doesn't have to be about work, right? Just getting to know about people.
Yeah, and you're kind of urged or forced, not forced, urged towards like chatting, like at the very least during, like while you are waiting for the food to arrive, cannot be like you are just staying there silent, right? You will be talking about something. So yeah, that helps.
Yeah, definitely. You have a lot of puns for them to to get started with, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's my identity. I have to do it.
Train the new pun master.
Creating my legacy.
And I think also like the thing about in-person, face-to-face communications, there's something non-verbal you cannot just communicate through text or even with screens, like facial. I guess you can pick up facial expressions still, but I guess body language, emotions.
Let's talk about hot take, okay? about cameras in meetings.
What?
Right.
I consider it a hot take, right? Like some people will be like, "Hey, you must turn on your camera whenever there's a meeting." Some people are like, "Oh, you're fine. Like, just come to the meeting. It's fine if you don't turn on the camera." I'm kind of like 50-50. Like if it's a meeting, I guess it's more like, hey, usually you can just turn on the camera, but for some events, maybe like social events, just turn on your camera. I recently there's like engineering sharing on Fridays every 2 weeks where I work now, and I think the most recent one is like just join a Zoom call and everybody turn on the camera, and then we just go to breakout rooms and just chat. Right. And the CTO was like considering whether we just do breakout rooms and then play Among Us. It's like, nah, just chat for now. So I would say that would help, like for social event, like opening cameras would help.
I don't know. I feel like at least from the perspective of that's the perspective of you're thinking about the perspective of whether you're forcing, like you're wanting someone to show their face on camera is making them comfortable or not. I think the other perspective is for someone else joining in the meeting with a bunch of avatars. That's also might make the other person feels weird out, uncomfortable, and if that makes any sense. Like talking to static face, I don't get any form of feedback about what I'm talking. If I'm sharing things that you feel unclear or it's making you uncomfortable, I can't really tell from your static, perfectly photoshopped avatars. Emotionless face. Like, am I doing something wrong? I don't get any visual feedback at all. It's exactly like talking into a mirror if there's no one else on the screen sharing their camera. It's that kind of feeling. Like, it takes away all the other aspect of communications other than voice. And communication usually is more than just voice.
Yeah. I think turning on your cameras is always helpful. Like whether or not it's a social event or it's a formal meeting. But then because we are working at home, there are some like privacy stuff that has to be considered also lah. Like for example, if you're sharing the same working room, like your home office with your wife, for example, and turning that on consistently means that you will have to ask your wife to wear hijab always. So that's not gonna be convenient for some people. And yeah, I mean, like it's a private space, you know. Like you're not working from a workplace. You are working from your private space. So there are some privacy concerns as well. So yeah.
Yeah, there's all this like sudden push for remote work. Like didn't leave people enough time, I guess, time to plan out or for their dedicated space in their current living private space for work. I think most people don't have that in their home.
And like I don't have any extra rooms to actually become a private home space. So if I want to pre-plan this, like, so let's say I know in the future I want to work remotely always, for example, then the next house that I'm gonna pick for rent, then I can say that the criteria is I have to have my own room for like a private home office. But like before this, because we were not pushed to this full-time remote thing, so we were not considering that in the first place because we go to work. Yeah, I mean, you have to be in the situation to actually kind of look that far into the future. Like, am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like right now I'm working. We're recording this in a bedroom that I cannot turn into a home office. So I'm not. I'm just saying that there will be people who is in the same situation as me, that like it's a bit inconvenient for them to just like have a private home office. But yeah, I mean, now that we are accepting this new norm, maybe everyone should give that a thought, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying.
I mean, tell me about it. I live in a studio apartment. I don't have a room. I'm simultaneously
Oh,
in my
right.
bedroom and a kitchen.
Right.
Your whole
Yeah.
house.
You are in the kitchen and in the bedroom and
Yes.
in your home office and everything.
Yeah, everything is here. So I mean, that's always the things that people say, like, who's the best people to push for digital transformation? Not the CTO, not the technology companies. It's the virus.
COVID. Yeah, I was about to bring out the meme.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like after you mentioned privacy concerns, I think that's very legit as well. Like, we weren't prepared for this and we're kind of forced into this as well. I think one group that's definitely like most affected by this is parents. Like, I think Afif,
Yep.
you will kind of understand. Like, I think
Yes.
especially like parents with older kids, they are schooling, and they are more active.
Yes.
Right, they can do more things, will be handful for parents as well. And I think I would imagine it would be very stressful, right? Like, not only just taking care of the kids, but also have to work at the same time, and they kind of like,
Yep.
look, let me not like turn on my camera because my kids are just running around.
Oh,
Yeah.
I totally get that a lot in our office meetings. Our lead product managers and our lead in the support team. Two kids, parents at home, working at the same time.
But I think one thing we kind of do very badly is that a lot of times we kind of don't know how to say no. Or I feel like sometimes when like people say turn on camera, like people who are uncomfortable and people who are not comfortable turning on camera are not comfortable saying no to turning on camera.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, like, I think we can talk about this later, but I was gonna say sometimes you can even say no to meetings.
Yeah, I guess the standard rule of meetings, applies to like physical face-to-face meetings and remote meetings, right? If you feel like a physical meeting doesn't make sense, like a remote meeting would likewise be the same thing.
Right.
I think that's how much trust you have in your team, right? Like the relationship, trust you have with your teams. Like, if you're not comfortable to say no to turn off camera, I feel like there might be some other indicators about the trust in that team or understanding among the team members.
I was gonna say also, with regards to like working, I guess we're not anymore talking about onboarding. We're just talking about working remotely at this point.
On board remote.
One of the things about working remotely is just it gives you flexibility in terms of like how you want to plan out your day. So sometimes there are days when I actually have to reschedule my work towards the night, for example, and so I wouldn't be as active in the morning. So it gives you this like, how do you handle meetings then, right? If you want to have this, a more flexible working from home, like flexible schedules lah, basically. So like, I think people should also be comfortable saying no to meetings. Like, okay, just like, for example, you have a meeting about an epic, for example, and that epic is going to be carried out by other people in the team. So it's probably just suffice to just say, hey, I have these concerns, but then I wouldn't be able to join this meeting later, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very contextual, I guess, in terms of like meetings. It's like, for me, it's kind of like 50-50. It would definitely be a lot helpful if everybody is there and we can kind of discuss about things. Because sometimes it's like leaving a note is definitely one way to do it. But sometimes when the team is discussing about certain things, it's like, oh, there's this note from Afif, for example. It's like, oh, he's mentioning his concern on stuff on ABC, but we kind of want to talk to him about what he meant further by ABC.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I guess you have to write the long essay about that.
Oh, that's one way, or we can just reschedule the meeting.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of wanted to say it was like, with the flexible schedules, it's kind of like mimicking how multi-time zone team work, right? How they communicate. But that's like a whole loaded topic. Probably sometime later we might talk about it. Sorry, long ago.
Yeah, I sort of want to like bring back the topic around like onboarding. I mean, I'm not sure. Still about remote. I don't know how it's gonna feels like for a new joiner joining in this new normal situations. About forming, I guess, trust or even like friendship among teams. You don't go out lunch together anymore, and you don't, go out dinner after the work sometimes. Things that you like take for granted during the old normal way. I wonder how this is going to turn out like in the long terms. Like, so there will be a clear distinctions between colleagues and friends. Like, your colleagues are just someone you see on computer screens. Friends you need to be someone that's stay near to you, because those are the people that you will go out with, not people from your office anymore. It's weird if you think about it that way. I don't know how it's gonna be.
Might be the same thing as well, right? Like, friends are those that I see on my computer screen. with this, like, this is what's happening to me, right? Friends are those that I see. So there's no difference between a friend and a colleague. Like, everybody I see is through a computer screen right now.
That's true.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, all meetings have been moved to online now. I was just saying, even families you meet online nowadays. Like, a couple of months ago, my cousin passed away, and we actually held a session. What was it called? Like a doa session online with our
Funeral
family.
sessions.
So it's like, yeah, a funeral session. Yeah, actually, yeah, it's like a prayer session. Not really funeral, I would say. Yeah, a prayer session online. So it's not just friends and colleagues, so your family as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be a different experience now. Right. So right now in my team, we have one person which we haven't met face to face ever right now, because he joined in June, I think, and we were already working remotely by then. So I think that, I guess, the trust in our team is still okay, is in the sense that I'm not sure, I didn't ask him this, but we were always there to actually help him when he had problems, when he had difficulties to do something. So I guess that fostered trust as well. But I mean, going to go beyond that, like to become friends, like, not just colleagues, like your friends, it's not gonna happen just from helping in work helping at work. Basically, it has to be through all these social sessions, like having dinners
And knowing each other in real life, like the organic situation that you will talk in office, like, hey, new laptop, hey, play mobile games together, that kind of stuff, board games, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely not a total replacement.
Afif, I feel like the way the team is structured helps a lot with building trust, because the team is structured in a way such that it's a product centric team, right? I guess for more context, is your team is kind of like working on a few products, but when it comes to functional structures like backend team, front end team, and each member of the team is kind of working on a different side, different aspect of the code, it feels harder because there's no relationship between like the intersection of work.
Right. So, yeah, it depends a lot on the structure, I guess. So if you're the only backend engineer in a team, in a cross-functional team, then I'm not sure how you would do it. I've never had any experience like that. Is that what you're asking? Like, so instead of like my team right now, everyone is a developer, and then you have product manager and technical writer, support, whatever lah, right? But then maybe some teams have something like, okay, one front end engineer, one back end engineer, and one product and one support, for example. And then if you are the only backend engineer in the team and you are new, like I don't know how you would get some help. I guess you can ask backend engineers from other teams, but they will be handling different parts of the app. So yeah, it's quite challenging actually.
It might not even be the same product as well, right? If they're in a different team. If let's say the teams are structured around products. But there's one challenge I think about recently about cross-functional teams. I guess another challenge would be like something more related to the scenario I was bringing out is, let's say there's just a backend team, right? And let's say there are like 3 engineers in the backend team. And within these 3 engineers, they're kind of working on different aspects of the product, right? Someone's working on A, someone's working on B, someone's working on C. And sometimes it's hard to share things because it's like totally unrelated.
Yeah, that's a challenge actually. So the person who's probably the most familiar with what you are what you want to ask about is probably the one who left and the guy who you actually replaced.
Yeah, that's possible. that's
right. So like you have 3 person A, B, C, all of them backend engineers, but all of them work on A, B, and C. So they are all different. So when you join to replace B, for example, A and C doesn't actually know what B did. So you actually had to ask B, like the old B, because you are the new B.
Yeah.
Wait,
if the OB is still around.
I mean, the old B is not going to be there anymore, right? I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, that would be hard actually if you don't do, if your team, I guess your team culture has to have a lot of documentation processes, I guess, because if you don't document stuff, I guess you'll be starting a new one.
The code is the documentation.
No, not just.
I was going to say like that puts a new emphasis on your ability to write, your writing skills, I guess. And
yeah, it's definitely
now suddenly that become a very important skills.
yeah, especially in this remote working.
Yeah, in the written communication skills suddenly becomes more critical than ever than before.
Although it
because
is
of remote
critical.
working, yes.
But now even more so.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, sounds like we segued from onboarding to remote working. I think this is it, right? Because onboarding, like, unless you switch companies within this year, it's very unlikely that you have onboarded in a remote environment twice, right? And for me, I'm feeling the gap between like onboarding physically and onboarding remotely. I mean, all kind of know that, hey, onboarding and generally just shifting to a remote working mindset is kind of challenging.
Yeah.
And this is still new, right? Like most companies just started going full remote for less than a year, and we have yet to see how that's gonna affect new employees in the long run, like having joined or even like leave the company entirely remote. Like, I mean, there are already full remote companies, but I think for majority of the company, this is something new, and it's not just engineering. Like maybe even the people team doesn't know how to integrate and handle this. Yeah, there's a lot of things to learn. Like how does that gonna affect the company cultures and knowledge transfer and all kind of stuff.
I think definitely we can look at fully remote companies and learn from them. But again, it's very contextual and not a lot of this. For example, let's throw out GitLab. GitLab is like very transparent, right? They have everything written out from their level links to their salary information to like basically what the CEO does. Right? Everything is public. Even incidents are like publicly recorded in YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was gonna say we could think about taking a page or two from their book, but because the way the company was structured to begin with, and there's a lot of context there, it's very hard to directly adopt it. So it's more of like, okay, look at what they're doing and slowly thinking about how to evolve that culture. But it comes very hard. Okay, so again, a lot of context, right? If you are a small company, a small startup, and you're open-minded, it's easy to adopt. But if you're like a bigger corporate and you want to, for one, maybe bigger corporates are just not interested in working better remotely. I'm saying like corporates are evil. Right? But it might be harder to influence the culture, whether it's from top or from bottom. But yeah, I think we kind of all agree, like concluding this out, we kind of all agree that hey, remote working is just, if you're not used to it, remote working is hard. Company cultures are kind of not able to shift as quickly to adopt to remote working, and there's a lot of nuances we need to think about. There's like Fifth mentioning, there's a lot of like some privacy concerns you want to think about and future thinking and that kind of thing. Okay, I guess that's a wrap. Do you want to do an actual spiel, like, hey, follow us on Twitter?
Smash the like buttons.
Please subscribe.
Yeah.
Wow, saying it, like we joke about it, like, oh, please like and subscribe, but now it's like actually happening. It feels so weird.
Please follow, like, and subscribe. Or you can say it like Dave 2D. It's like thumbs if you love it, subscribe if you like it, something like that. I can't remember.
I think it depends on the platform you got this on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are only on YouTube right now, so
We have a Twitter account, so follow us on both lah.
yes.
Kopi
Okay,
Overflow.
thank you everyone.
Enjoy your coffee. Don't let it overflow.